All right, everybody. So we have some new sponsors, which means new ad reads. Before we get into this episode, first of all, our usual shout outs are Badger Highland Game Supply. Find them on Instagram or Facebook for all things tacky, implements, whatever you need to get started in the games. HeavyAthlete.com. If you're an athlete, go make a profile, claim all your old historical data, use it to sign up for games. If you're an athletic director, it is honestly your best option at this point. I don't know why you aren't doing it. And I'm genuinely curious. So if you're an athletic director that's not on board, chat with me. I'm confused as to why you don't want, your lightweight scores and your master scores to help qualify them for bigger games, or your pros scores to get them to Celtic. But it's neither here nor there. We also have two fantastic sponsors for the Woodridge Games, which, by the way, registration is now open on heavyathlete.com. You can find the link either in a whole bunch of places on our social media or on our website at goingrogue.com. You can find a whole games page actually there, the page that'll be available to the public for the game. So, without further ado, number one is Strength Agenda. So if you guys aren't familiar, Tom Soroka runs a company called Strength Agenda. They do programming and training and reviews and all those things for Olympic weightlifting, I believe also powerlifting, and Highland Games. So Tom has developed several ebooks that you can buy as training manuals specifically for the Highland Games or just about any other strength sport that you're involved in. So whether it is an actual coaching program or if you just want to buy ebooks and resources to use at your own pace, you can check out Strength Agenda. They're on Instagram, Facebook, and they have a they have a website with the same name where you can find them and check them out. Our other pro sponsor that I need to mention is Stars and Thistles. So Stars and Thistles is run by Kirsty Corder. She has a very sweet story about growing up watching her dad make his own tacky and go to games and people would buy it from him, and that was kind of how she got involved in this years and years ago. And she has since started that company, I think it's fair to say, with a focus on growing the female athletics in the sport as well. So they make fantastic tacky, and they are trying to come out with new products pretty often as far as that goes as well. They sell merchandise, a lot of it specifically for like masters and lightweight athletes and just fun shirts and sweatshirts and things like that. They also run a clinic every year called Highland Dames. You can find that on their website and on their Facebook just by searching Stars and Thistles. Excuse me. And it's I believe, like an overnight sort of boot camp style camp for female throwers trying to get better, where they bring in some fantastic coaches. I think they have Alyssa and Adrian coming this year, at least, if not more. So it's a fantastic resource if you're a female athlete trying to get into the games, or if you're just anyone that needs tacky and fun merchandise. Go check out Stars and Thistles. You can also find links to all of them as well on our website. You scroll down toward the bottom, we've got a list of all of our sponsors, the bronze sponsors, the pro sponsors, anyone else that gets on board. So thank you guys so much, and we will get to that episode.
Okay.
But I mean, we could do it now too if you want to just say your name awkwardly into a camera.
I mean, you're rolling, so
we're both rolling. That's unfortunately how this works.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Going Rogue podcast. This is Haley Gow.
There we go. Look, I'll just let you actually run it. We'll completely flip the script, and I'll just talk about yourself for like an hour, and I'll drink my Monster and take some notes.
No, I mean, I got my own. I got my own to do that on. So
fair enough. So, hey, you know what? That's actually a funnish place to start. Let's start with the gift of grab, the name that had to be explained to me more blatantly than it should have because I was dumb and didn't get the joke. But you do run.
I don't. Yeah, I'm a co-host. The gift of grab is our little passion project. I guess how it must have started for you guys as well. Just something for funsies to see like the lighter side of our sport. There's one other one that does quite well, but it's all very serious. And he'll recap he'll recap contests and shows and stuff like that and current rankings, and he'll have people to just kind of go over stats and go over numbers. And there's not really any type of joking or banter or playfulness to it. And not to say that that's not valuable, because a lot of people listen to podcasts for information. But ours is kind of like, we want to see the people behind the numbers. We want to make people laugh. Like, we just want it to feel like we're hanging out, like it's friends just sitting around having a beer together, and this is where our conversations would naturally go to. And we'll catch people off guard with, if you were involved in a bank heist, what 2 athletes would you bring with you? Like random stuff like that. So it's not too serious. And my co-host Will and I, like, we just kind of share the same personality, so it works. And it's just a bunch of goobin and gabbing.
Yeah, so there's no that accompanies the other Grip podcast. It's a real bummer.
No, yeah, it's him and the other host of the other podcast, him and Will, they have a really great relationship, but he didn't like my comments on blobs and inch dumbbells and stuff like that. So I'm kind of persona non grata, like, his whole authentic community doesn't really care for my opinions on that subject. So I think it's like, we don't like her, but we like you. And, but I support his show still. I listen to it all the time. I think he's great. I just, not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. So
I went to a party one time, and that was literally, I met a coworker's wife, and when she left, she clearly did not like me. She literally looked me in the face and shook my hand and said, "Not everyone has to like everyone," and turned around and walked out the door.
And I respect that, because
look, to this day, I'm not mad at her. I'm aware that, look, you're not wrong. I don't know that you need to shake my hand and say it to my face, but you're not wrong.
No, yeah, you could have gone your whole life without knowing it and just felt it, like, because you can pick up on the vibes people give you, like, okay, this person's not for me, I'm not for them. That's totally okay. I know I'm polarizing. I know that there are people that don't like me because I'm happy and positive and joking around all the time. Yeah. And then I know people love me for that. So it's like, you can't please everybody. And I'm too old for this shit mentality. Like, I'm too old to care anymore. So, like, I found my people and they find me, because if you're just yourself all the time, the right people will find you. And the people that hate you for it, like, can suck it. I don't know. It's just.
That's the podcast. We're just gonna. That's it. Podcast of saying you cannot like us, fuck off, and then. But what killed me, it's not even like he and I weren't even on like the same platoon or anything. Like, I never saw this dude across the 10 years I had worked there at this point. I'm like, I haven't seen his wife since. I hadn't seen her for the decade before then. I don't know why she felt so compelled, but fuck it. But we can get back to some semblance of structure. So yeah, that's I completely understand people not agreeing with the way you view their sport or world or any of that, but fuck it. So the way I want to run this was we go chronologically through the athletic life of Haley Gow. So had you always been involved in sports and athletics, like, from a young age? Was that something that came on later in life? Like, when did all that?
Yeah, so I suppose just my dad was a professional athlete. My dad played professional football. My mom was an accomplished basketball player.
Who'd your dad play for?
The Buffalo Bills.
Oh, yeah.
The Raiders, no, but the Bills, the Buffalo Bills. And so I obviously am a huge Bills fan, if you know me or follow me. Or
have ever seen you.
Yeah, or ever seen me. Anything I'm wearing, or patches, or my chairs at Highland games usually have bills all over them. I think my tent is red and, or no, I got a new one. Anyway, I used to have a Bills tent, but anyhow, so my dad was, playing football and we were kids and he was gone a lot. And when he would be there, his way to bond with us was just to show us sports or get us involved in sports. So when he retired, I was probably 5 or 6, and then he was playing semi-professional football, semi-professional football across the border in Canada, and would come home, and it was just, let's throw the ball around, let's shoot some hoops in the backyard. So the first thing my parents both realized, you can't teach height. She's probably going to be tall. My dad's 6'5", so it was basketball. It was basketball right away. I think I joined my first team when I was 6 years old, and my dad was my coach, and he was very much I don't know if you've seen the movie The Little Giants, where there's a football player named Spike, and the dad is kind of putting him through drills in the backyard and making him do pull-ups and moving a refrigerator around. So it was just kind of dad's boot camp in the backyard. You can't come in for dinner until you make 100 free throws. That was he very strict athletics, but me and my 3 siblings, we all excelled athletically, and we had the genetics obviously, but we also had the work ethic from him drilled into us. So I think that's mostly why now I try to have fun with it, because for the longest time I was so structured and insane about every single rep, every single thing I did, that now it's just I'm getting, again, too old, and I've already had a long career in athletics, and now I just kind of want to have fun and certainly do better and push myself in my own way, but I don't really add an insane amount of pressure.
Which I think is one of the, like you said earlier, people kind of really enjoy about having you at games and things like that. No one's ever going to say that you weren't. So that's working out well for you, I think, with the I don't want to call it branding because it feels disingenuous, but some people have branding that they've intentionally put themselves in, and then I think other people have just kind of developed a good sense of who they are, and that gravitates toward other athletes, other athletic directors, sports in general, and things like that, if you were to try and be that happy at a powerlifting meet, I feel like everyone would just glare at you. They're really busy listening to Disturbed and
crushing white monsters. Yeah.
Gets the best of all of us. But okay, so that was young, and then is it fair to say that volleyball is the first thing that you really excelled at, or was there anything that came? I don't want to play down your 6-year-old basketball skills, but
no, I was a very good basketball player. I played on a travel league. My high school basketball team, we went to states. The plan was initially for me to play college basketball, and I started getting recruited for that. And I didn't start playing volleyball until I was a freshman in high school. It wasn't the sport for me. I was a swimmer, a basketball player, and a softball player. And so my older sister started playing volleyball, and she joined a travel team. She made a junior Olympic team, and then I was like, this seems like so much more fun. A lot less running, it's just more fast twitch muscles and movements and more jumping, and I really great at jumping. I could, hit the backboard, touch the rim at one point. I had a really great vertical leap. And I was like, all right, I'll try out for the JV team and do a volleyball camp. And then it was just okay, well, you're pretty good naturally, and we're going to bump you up. And then I joined a travel team, and then I made the junior Olympic team with her that same year. So it was just something that I was naturally gifted at. So I was like, okay, I think I want volleyball to be more of a focus, but I have a lot of catching up to do. So my dad, again, got me into all these clinics and camps, and got me this jumping program to increase my vertical jump, and footwork drills, and he set me up for success. Athletically more than anyone in my life, just because he saw the potential in me and he made sure that I had access to everything. Like, we didn't have a ton of money, but like what we did have, it was just like, it's all in for athletics. So like me, my sister, and my two brothers, like that was something we never had to worry about. He was going to find a way to pay for the trip to Salt Lake or Atlanta or whatever for our tournaments, and it was never an issue. He really put all of his eggs in one basket with that, and I'm very fortunate. So volleyball came on later, but I worked really hard to get up to speed, I suppose, and got a scholarship and played in college and took it from there.
Hell yeah. We gotta stop. I gotta stop with questions that lead to how nice your dad was. It's just gonna make me real sad in a happy way. But,
yeah, no, I mean, like he's a hard ass. Like, he's completely like psychotic and strict, but he was very supportive.
Anyway, no, well, that's dope. So the basketball went well, and then you said you were also swimming and doing other stuff, and then found out volleyball, and then Junior Olympics, went to college. Sweet. When did so walk me through the college years. I mean, you went and played. I think at more than one school initially, right? But ended up or did you start at Pitt and then go elsewhere, or vice versa?
Yeah. I ended with Robert Morris University, so that is also Division I program, and at the time they were much better. Like now, Pittsburgh has.
Fans actually closely follow Robert Morris.
No, yeah. Pittsburgh is a very good program right now. They made the Final Four, and it's a great volleyball team. But at the time, 100 years ago, there was the better program to go to. I know, but I mean, it certainly feels like that sometimes, right? So it was the decision based on education, really. I wanted to, I didn't like the path that I was on, because it was just kind of like a loose business degree, and I wanted it more specialized, and going to a mid-major school was more beneficial, but they had a really great volleyball team. So it was just like a natural, okay, they're in the tournament every year, and they've really good in-season record and smaller classroom setting, a homier campus life. It made the most sense for me. So, and I loved it. I loved my time in Pittsburgh. It's just, it's one of those decisions you got to make for yourself, and switch things up. And it was still away from home, where I got, a sense of just being myself for once, because when you grow up with siblings all kind of close together, you're all competing for the spotlight, especially since we were all athletes. So it was nice to just go off and make a name for myself. So that was like my first real experience doing that.
Nice, which is important in the 60s, if I'm basing off of how far back you act like it was.
Yeah.
So cool. So college wraps up, and then you go on to do what athletically?
Well, I mean, I think anyone that really knows me knows that it was just kind of a complicated time. I left, and it was, okay, what the hell do I do with myself now? There was a tour called the Bring It Promotion Tour, where they select like a group of 50 athletes from the United States, like all Division I programs, and okay, they either graduated or they finished their program out, whether they were they redshirted or they were NIIA, whatever they were. So they just select a group of women, and you get on a couple of buses, and you tour Europe, and you play on you play against professional teams that are currently like in season. And it's kind of a recruiting trip for those teams to see you play against their current teams. So then they say, like, okay, I want number 15 or I want number 7 or whatever, whatever it is. And then sometimes you could go to Italy, or you could play in an English speaking country, or you could go to Germany, Belgium, France. Like it's all over, and it's much bigger in Europe than it is here. We just started a professional volleyball league in the United States like 2 years ago. So on the women's side, so that's exciting, but it's always been big elsewhere, and it's just kind of now picking up a little bit of speed. And
I've always wondered why sports, they just end up so much more concentrated in Europe. I mean, especially in the worlds we live in with strongman and Highland games and things like that. I feel like there are pockets of it in Europe that are taken incredibly serious. And then here it's hosted at some dude's 2-car garage. And that's it.
Yeah, I think as Americans, I think we just put all of our money and advertising into the sports that everybody's known forever. Like just not to say that volleyball hasn't been around as long as football, but like it's more exciting because it's the closest thing we get to gladiators, like guys just beating each other up. And for 4 hours, and rugby's not popular here either. And I feel like that could be a huge success in the United States because it's just badass people beating up on each other. Yeah. But it's Americans. It's just a cultural thing. Like all of our money and energy goes into just the popular stuff, and we could absolutely grow the niche sports and shine a light on it, because ESPN has a million channels and a million slots to fill, and they just don't do a good job. So
bowling, cornhole whenever football's not on. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, they have cornhole on. They have, but they wouldn't have the men's World Highland Games Championships. That doesn't make any damn sense. Like,
not a bit.
Yeah.
But, all right. Tangent there, which happens. So you toured around, ran around with 50 other Americans throughout all parts. What happened after that? What came of it?
Allianz Bank has a team in Stuttgart, Germany, and they were like, "Hey, come on, come on to the Black Forest and play with us." And I was just kind of like, "Oh man, I didn't really expect this to pay off." Like, I was just kind of like trying to extend it, a little bit.
Yeah, so you just wanted a cool experience and to kind of extend the college thing, and it snowballed into more than that?
Yeah, and, going there, and my dad has German heritage, and his father spoke a lot of German, but he died when I was quite young. But it was kind of like, oh, this is cool, like not like a coming home trip or anything, because it's not really a huge percentage in my nationality, but it was enough where I was pretty stoked. Like, okay, yeah, there's some German lineage there. This will be fun. And I got like Babbel and like audiobooks and books and German for Dummies, and it was just like, let's go. And then when you first get there, they kind of set you up with a host family until you get acclimated. And when I got there, they spoke an entirely different dialect of German, and it was like, okay, I have no idea what the hell is going on. And then I was just with teammates after that, and I stayed one season before it was like, I'm homesick, and maybe let's see if I can transfer to, like, there were a few teams in London popping up, and I was like, oh, that would be cool, like just speaking English and not struggling. And but I learned quite a bit, and it was a wonderful experience, but it was just like, I'm homesick, and there was stuff in my family I wanted to be back for. Like, my sister had 2 daughters that were baby girls, and there's just like a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, I think I've done this, and then I wanted to, be an Olympian, but to be an Olympian for volleyball, like you have to be the tippity top. And it was obvious that I know you've met me, I'm very tall, but in my position, I was very short. So going up against somebody who's 6'6" at my position, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Not Haley, who's 6 feet. So it was just kind of like, all right, I did all I could do, and I think it's time to not retire because I still played, but like it was just like, all right, this chapter's over, and it was time to just go get a big girl job and join, you know, I don't know, whatever, life happens.
That big boring thing we all do now that pays the bills. But,
yeah.
Cool. So is that? I won't get too deep into your work. I know what you do. Everyone doesn't need to know the nitty gritty. But is that kind of when you started down the general career path that you're still on now?
No. My career has jumped around a little bit. When I first got out, I did my thing. I traveled a little bit. I had some fun. And then it was like, all right, Haley, get serious. And my mom was working for a bank, and she was just like, apply, like come in and apply. They're always taking new people and this and that. And you could get in and you might like it. Like there's a great culture here. Everyone has fun. Like there's weekly happy hours. And at the time I was like, 22 years old. Like, that sounds great. I love to drink. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't threaten me with a good time. So I was like, all right. And, I went and I worked there, and she was right. Like I fell in love with the people. It wasn't really, banking in general. And, that's a drag, but I met a lot of great people, and I loved it, and I stayed there a little bit long, and I got promoted, and I was just like, wait, this is so far off track of what I wanted to do with my career. But I didn't really pivot until like 6-7 years there, and then I was just like, okay, this isn't for me, because I kept getting promoted, and then at one point, like I was in management and I was just working like 60 hours a week. I was stressed out. I was very skinny. I picked up cigarettes. Like I was smoking cigarettes because I was so stressed out, and like I was just like, I'm not a smoker. Like what is happening? Like I got down to like 143 pounds at one point. Like I was just very skinny, like gross, and I was just like, this isn't the life I want to live. So I completely switched gears after that, and I've been doing what I do now ever since, for different companies, and I've been at my current one for a little while now, and I'm happy-ish. My goal, now, I think your priorities shift when you become a parent, and when you just life events happen and changes happen, and you just realize kind of what's important and what makes you happy. And I think I might switch things up again soon, because life is too short. But yeah, I do work in aerospace now, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy the process of it, and I enjoy the people. I just don't enjoy how stressed out I am. So
yeah. Well, so I mean that covers from what 22 until now. Career span. So how did all of that affect athletic? I mean, you talk about when you went into working for the bank.
Yeah, so I
would imagine it dropped off somewhat during that.
Yeah, I came back. I came back home, and everybody was like, "Oh, join my bar league volleyball team," and I'm like, "Hell no!" Like that sounds terrible. That sounds like I'm gonna get injured, or somebody's gonna run into me, like running down a ball and like setting like this, and I'm like, that just sounds irritating. So a friend of mine who also played college volleyball moved back to Western New York, and a number of elite type athletes from club and the area were coming together to join like a rec league at this Niagara sports complex. and they had sport court, and it was like all set up the way like a college volleyball court would. And it was like an hour from my house at the time, but I was like, I'm going to go at least once a week so I can keep playing good volleyball. So that was quite competitive. And then there was like the nationals tournament set up for aging adults that still wanted to play volleyball. And, you know, you could travel to Dallas and compete as a team. And, you know, we all trained really hard trying to hold on to our glory days. But for volleyball, you don't really need too much strength. You need like a lot of leg power, but it's like the fast twitch muscles. It's a lot of jumping quickly, moving quickly, lateral movements, swinging your arms, just core. So I was like long and lean, but just very, you know, not much muscle. So
well, then let's jump ahead. When did you find what we
strength sports?
yeah, and what was your first? I mean, you've not to spoiler alert. You've been in a lot of fields as far as that go, right? So grip,
Yeah.
strong, Highland games. What was your first one of the weird stuff? You know.
So this is weird. I actually entered a beauty pageant my senior year of college. And there's, you know, a evening gown and swimsuit portion or whatever. So I was like, all right, let's start changing your shape up from just like a long, lean volleyball noodle to like something a little bit more curvy and muscular. And so I was like, okay. And we weight trained a ton. Like our strength and conditioning coach in college, he was a former Pittsburgh Steeler, and he was kind of a crazy man. Like we all got very strong, but it's just a different look. You know what I mean? It's like if you watch a volleyball game on television right now, you know what I'm talking about. It's a different type of strength. So, but that was my first introduction to, you know, kind of building for aesthetics, and then it took a back seat because it was just performance based, and then I had my daughter. She's 10 now. So I had my daughter, and I, you know, lost a bunch of weight after she was born. Nursing helped. And then I was just kind of like, I'm like skinny fat, you know, so to speak. So I was just like, let's get back into the gym.
I hear.
Yeah, like let's build something underneath this. And then, you know, we went to the Niagara Celtic Festival close to home. And, you know, I had a few beers in me, and I like walked over to the athletics field. And I remember seeing Courtney McGuire, who is not even 5 feet tall, and pick up the caber and walk with it and like entertain the crowd. And she was like holding on to it, just like talking to the crowd, like making it look like it was no big deal. And I was just like blown away by her. Like, holy crap, how do I get involved? Like, how do I do this? And I just kind of walked over at the end. I was like, how does one do this? She's like, well, you got to, you know, this one specifically, there's like a wait list, and you got to get in touch with the AD, and you got to come to a practice and touch the implements, because we're not just going to let you walk out here and try it. Well, I was like, okay. And then I Googled it when I got home, and I contacted the guy, and of course he didn't answer. And then I just kept like, I really want to do it. And he's like, if you're serious, next summer there's a clinic. I'm like, next summer? What the hell? So I had to wait. But I knew that I needed to be stronger than I was. So I just started lifting weights with the goal that I could pick up trees one day and throw them on a field wearing a kilt. And then that summer, he hooked me up with Chuck Livingston, who's like a legend, like as far as masters throwers are concerned up here. And he brought me to one of his clinics he was hosting a couple hours away. And he's like, you've never thrown before? I'm like, not once, like not at all. When I did track, I was a runner and a jumper. So I'm like, I have no mechanics of this. I have, you know, but I can pick up stuff. pretty well, just being an athlete. So I was confident that I could do it, but I could not do it for, for a very long time. It did not come naturally to me, but I had a lot of fun and I made friends, and that's kind of what kept me coming back. And I think Matt Hand was the first person to give me an opportunity to go to a games a little bit far for me. Like, he invited me to a games that was like 4 hours away, and I was like, whoa, does this mean like I'm gonna get out there more, like people know me? Because at the time I had no idea how you got to go to more festivals. I just thought you needed to be invited or somebody needed to add you to a Facebook group. So he was the first real person to give me a shot. And then I remember going there and I saw Aaron George was a pro male thrower, and Heather Haddock was like the elite women's thrower. And I was just like, wow, like, this is what it should look like. Okay. And Heather was so nice and just really funny. Like, yeah. She was so nice and a lot of fun. And I was just like, okay, I love her. I love this. She's very good. Let me just try to copy her.
Yeah. Everyone who's ever met HMAC loves HMAC. She's not a lover person. It's just, you don't love her.
Yeah, I'm concerned you might not have a soul, because she's funny and kind and welcoming, and like by the end of the games, she was taking pictures of everybody. She's like, "Oh, what's your name on Facebook? We'll connect." And like, I'm just like, did I just make a new best friend? Like, just like she just makes you feel that way automatically. And I couldn't say enough kind words about her. She was like the first real person, on the elite level that made it seem like, okay, Highland Games is for everybody, and it's not like a closed community where I'm just trying to break in and not make waves and not be myself. She made me feel comfortable to be myself. So I will forever remember that.
That's a go HVAC.
Go HMAC.
Go HVAC. Yeah, no, that's a very typical into this sport at a certain point. With trying to connect to the right people and be in the right Facebook group and talk on the right forum and send the right email. So, did you find Highland Games before you ever tried? Was that the order of events?
Yeah, so Highland Games introduced me to Billy Burke-Hume and Scott Fike, and they were both strong man and strong woman competitors. Like, Billy had bunch of national records and then won nationals one year, and so she was just like a beast. And I'm like, she had a gym, Iron and Stone Strength, and it was probably again like an hour away from me, but we all got together, some Highland Games athletes, like Jen Taylor drove up from Ohio, and like we were like, and Becky Inez from Ontario came down, and that was also her first jump into strongman. Like, we all started together at Billy's gym. So,
What
was that?
Stones, all Becky.
Yeah, exactly. But that was like her first time touching a stone, and I was there. So like now her stone journey, I'm just like, oh, I was there for the baby days when you picked up a 175-pound stone and you were so excited and ecstatic. And, we all were, because we had no concept of what was a good weight for that. It was just like, oh, I picked up my body weight. That's pretty cool. Like, surely that's good enough. And it's like, not even close. But we all had fun and really liked it. And it was just kind of like playing with big kid toys, just picking up bigger rocks. And then I signed up for a show because I had nothing else to train for. And I'm the type of person that needs something to train for, or I'll just slack off. I like to stay in shape, but like, if I don't have a goal, like, I'm not going to structure my workouts. I'm not going to have a plan. I'll just go and wing it, and then I'll be there for 3 hours without anything to do. So yeah, and then just sign up from there. And there's certain events I'm naturally gifted at, and then there's certain events that I'm not. I'm not very good at. So like if I could pick and choose my own, shows and like which ones I'm good at, then I'd be a really great strong woman. But unfortunately, I only have certain pieces, and I have a few state records in strongman. But
For what? That's something I didn't know.
yeah, max stone load, and then farmers hold.
Oh, a grip event.
Yeah, yeah, no wonder. But that's why I wanted it. That's why I wanted it. Like there was like a show, and it was like these are for state records, and one of the events is I think it was 180 pounds per hand, like holding it. And I was just like, what was the previous record? And it was like 43 seconds. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna smoke that. Like, no problem. And then I did, and then I was just like, all right, cool. And I just kind of set it down. Like, I mean, I like held as long as I could, but I just.
But it was 43 seconds.
Yeah, I got over, I think, a minute 10 or something. So, and then I'm like, all right, now we can. I have a safe enough lead, I think, maybe for a year or two before somebody can touch it here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
No, that's pretty solid number for that. No, that's fun. I totally get that. I used to go do a strongman show every like June or July because there was no Highland games around, and I would also just stagnate if I didn't have something to go do. But I was also eating a strongman 2 throwing events because I was like, I'm not hanging on max deadlift with a bunch of other 300-pound dudes. They're all on trend. They're gonna blow me out of the water. I can't do that, but like, I can throw a 56 better than you can. You can't separate your shoulders. It doesn't. They're glued together because you're made of muscle, which must be weird.
Yeah, and then and then you got freak athletes like Hannah Lindsay and Kira Rickson that can do both and do both really, really well. And like you're like, oh, it's just muscle, and they can muscle their way through anything. But it's more than that. Like they're athletes. Like they have the timing, they have all of the raw talent. And if they did all your, dial in a few things, they could both be world champions, I think.
I'm really excited because I think Kira is on the games this year. So I'm excited to see how that goes. They've both impressed me a lot with how much they've adapted because, like, when they both came in, everyone was like, oh, they're going to be great at the static events. And then, they'll get to weight throws or stone throws or whatever, and they're going to tank. And they kind of did but only a very short amount of time. And once they both started practicing, it actually got, like, really impressive and fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
We need more of that in the sport. And for people to light up when we bring people in from other sports would be really cool. But, whatever.
Yeah, it's also that whole, like there's a certain group of people that don't want things to change. They don't want to upset the apple cart, and they don't like the new blood, and then there's the people that are like, no, it's for everybody and welcome, and we would love to see it. And in my opinion, records are always meant to be broken, and people are always meant to be challenged and pushed out of the top spots. And I can't wait to see it happen because I think Hannah is truly capable of it. And, I mean, she missed the podium at Worlds by like a few points, and she's going to come back, once she heals, and, because you can't keep doing strong woman forever. We're all aging, and I hope that she transitions to Highland Games and just kicks ass because she's capable of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, you found strongman. Then is that where you then found out that you had an affinity for all things grippy?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really have big hands. I think like the misconception is that I'm tall, I must have big hands, that's why I'm good at grip. But like Hannah, my bestie, has bigger hands than I do. Like one of the top female grip athletes. Tammy McClure has bigger hands than I do, and she's like 5'5". Like there are intangible things that like you can't really compete against. You know, hand size, hand width. But
Have you met coaches like Labe?
Yeah.
Yeah. God damn it. The first time I ever jumped in a grip thing was also he was in it. And that dude's thumb, I talk about it constantly. I swear to God, it starts like down here. It's the most insane insertion I've ever seen on a human. Like,
yeah, like I think I started following him on Instagram
yeah.
after the Shaw, the first time they had a grip contest. Anyway, I saw that he was going to be like, he was one of the heavyweight men that signed up for the pro show at the Arnold last year. And I was like, okay, we got to watch this guy because like I've never seen him in person. I didn't know how tall he was. I didn't know how big he was. Like he's on the Sturger strength ads, like male modeling. Like I knew he was an absolute unit. I just didn't know that like how big, how impressive. And then we saw him lift at the Arnold, and it was just like, okay, holy smokes, this guy is enormous. He's like a superhero, like in person. Like
It's border, if he wasn't also a sweetheart, I'd be him. Such a nice dude.
Yeah, like I can't say that I know him at all. Like our interactions, socially have been limited, but like from everybody else, everybody else saying how wonderful and sweet he is, I'm like, all right, this is great. Because, the whole don't meet your heroes thing will end up being dicks and not people you really like. But a lot of the guys in arm lifting were like that, like scary physically, but then they're actual sweethearts. So I'm not surprised to hear that at all. And I hope he'll be at the Arnold this year because
I can't imagine, but I don't know. He's got some puppy cuddling contest. Probably that's it. But so all right, so you start all that. You keep acting like, oh, it's just grip, but like you have 2 world titles in USA arm lifting. I feel like that's very much worth mentioning.
Yeah, I have some weight class records and a world record, I believe, in the anvil. I mean, like I'm good. But it's a growing sport, right? So like I know my time at the top. This is my window, right? Because there's more people signing up. There's more strong women coming over. There's athletes from other sports. There's professional climbers like West Coast. Yeah, West Coast Arm Sports just held a contest at the LA Fit Expo, and they had an Olympian rock climber come in on a lark, like, oh, this sounds fun, I'm going to sign up. And she came in third behind 2 seasoned grip athletes. So like,
following, I can't remember her name. I think that was path when she started that and then just started training. And even her training videos are just insane. Like numbers that are comparable to every leaderboard for any event she does, and she's just in her garage fucking around.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, so there's so much untapped potential and strength in a lot of athletes out there that like I know I'm very aware that this is my window, and it doesn't stop me from trying to promote it and from trying to get more women involved to grow the sport, because it's exciting to see it. And like I want to hang on as long as I can because it's not taxing on your body. It's not taxing financially too much. There's 2 big shows a year, the Olympia and the Arnold. So as long as you make those, you're kind of in. And it's growing, and it's going to keep getting better, and everybody's going to keep pushing those numbers a little bit higher. Like Gabby Dixon's a professional strong woman. She came in and just blew the roof off of a lot of records. And Rebecca Roberts from the UK, she did it as well. I keep trying to beg Hannah Lindsay to do it, and I'm still hoping that she will, and she'll join us and completely, smoke everybody else. And I personally want to see that happen. I want it to be better. but there are people again that, don't want it to, and they want it to stay niche and small and hold on to these records and have their little clubs, and which is unfortunate. Like, I think sports are designed to grow and get better and push yourself.
Or they
so
grow where they're by people acknowledge that. Because like one of the things I was going to ask you in about 10 seconds whenever I shut up is like parallels between the Highland Games and Grip, and you've kind of said the same thing about both so far, in that you do have a lot of people who want to keep it in their little world and don't want to expand it to either new athletes or venues or modalities in any way. And like there's an argument to be made, I think, that those people are also killing the sport they love by not letting new people in. Like you're not doing anyone a favor. You can't keep coexisting at this level. It will start to drop off if you're not adding more into it, and that drives me insane. So
absolutely, where I live, there was a huge community of Highland Games athletes, the Buffalo Heavies. Like, I think they were known, you know what I mean? Like, they would travel well together. Everybody knew that they would put on clinics and a ton of games. And from Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, like, we had a lot of people traveling to come to our games. I think the first time I met Katie Vaudrain was she drove up. And then it just, one guy took over from the old guy, and then he wanted things ran his way, a certain way, and it just kind of, people were getting a little irritated. I'm not going to go to that one. And then the games kept getting smaller and smaller, and he ended up, like, his intentions were good. Like, he wanted to continue it, but the way he was doing things rubbed people the wrong way, and he lost some athletes, and it just has dwindled down where now, if you go to his games, there might not even be three women to a class. So it's not really, worth it if you want competition, or, if you want a trophy, go ahead. But if you want to meet new people and get better, then you got to kind of move. And Mac Dillman with the Empire Throwing Club, he's on the other side of my state, and he's doing a wonderful job. So I'm glad that there's youth, like, I don't even know how old Mac is, but I would assume he's a little bit younger than me, but he's bringing a new energy and attention to the sport with all of his social media stuff and his challenges, and he's doing a great job for New York. So thank you, Mac. If you listen, I don't know if you do.
I might be one of the 20 people that do. But yeah, I'm going to keep a tally of every time you talk like you're 100 on this episode. I think we're up to 7.
I'm getting up there. It's every year you're like, oh, 2025. Ooh. I remember the year 2000.
That was that 5 years ago, but it's 2025. That doesn't make any sense.
It's wild. It really is. Like, it's.
What other like parallels have you seen from the sports that you've been into? I mean, if I was going to take a stab at them, I'd say it'd be something like comedy and them having a niche and all of that stuff. But is there anything else that you see, good or bad, that is very similar to Grip and Strongwoman and Highland Games? Like,
for the women's side, sports in general, I think, there's cattiness, there's competitiveness, there's, mean girls, and that's not going to change, and it doesn't matter what sport you're in. But women are, they like the sense of community. They're wonderful, and they are usually, I would say 90% are kind and welcoming. But there's always that one little group that, doesn't want things to change and excludes people. And I have felt that. I have gone to elite games I have thrown at, and there's been some elite female throwers that just are very closed off, closed-minded. They have their little core, and they don't want anyone else in it. And you don't belong. You're not one of us. They're not welcoming. And then there's some that are like, come on, I'll help you. Oh, here's a cue you might not have thought about. And oh, just do this next time. And they'll stop what they're doing and genuinely care about you and nurture you. And, I think that is across the board for all three: strong women, Highland Games, grip, you name it. I think there's always going to be that type of person in those
Yeah.
sports. And the parallels as far as, grip, like Highland Games is not like anything. Like, having the strength to pick up 100-pound caber, like, yeah, you got to be strong. To twist a 16-pound hammer around your body, like, you got to have a strong core and hips. Like, there are things that translate, but it's not like, you know, it's not like
Yeah.
anything else. I think that's why we all love it. Like, you have to be good or decent at 9 different things all on one day in a field, sweating your ass off, or in the rain, or in the mud. And
Yeah. Um, you mentioned something, and I'm curious to get your take on it. Do you think, because I'm sure it happens on the male side, but do you think there are more of those little it, sects and pocket of mean girls on the women's side than there are on the men's, or do you think it's pretty evenly spread out? I mean, you've got a perspective I don't have. I'm not sure if I'm just an unbothered asshole because I tend to just ignore people. Like
no, I mean,
anyone.
I can't speak to the male experience on that. From what I see, like, it all does seem supportive. It seems like, and if you do talk trash, it's more of a razzing. It's more of like an initiation. Like, I feel like, if I'm making fun of you, if I'm picking on you, it's because I like you and I want you here. It's like, it's a whole different thing. And I developed that personality too with some of my closest friends. It's like, if I'm roasting you and making fun of you, like, I love you. Like, and if somebody else were to do it, I'd kick their ass. Like, it's just, it's that type of thing. But the women's side, and I've talked to a number of different women that have felt that way, where they come and they're literally being talked about while they're throwing. And like,
Yeah.
you set up your tripod to film your throw, and then you can hear chatter in the background of people literally talking about you. And it's like, there's no place for it to me, I don't care for gossip, and I don't care for the extra noise. And it still blows my mind because it seems like we're all too old for this. Like, aren't we all adults? Like, this seems so high school, but it still occurs. And it's sometimes from the people that I think are perceived to be very sweet and kind on the outside. And so it would surprise you to learn how cold and mean they are, actually. It certainly surprised me.
Yeah. Um, well, hey, let's take a left turn into positive territory. I'm going to steal one from your podcast book. If you had to pick two Highland Games athletes to help you get out of an escape room, who are you picking?
Shit. Hannah, because I feel like she'd, just be the muscle would bulldoze
All right.
anybody in the way. And I feel like I had a male.
I mean, it's your escape room. This is.
Yeah, like, help me escape. Like, shit. The other Hannah, like both Hannahs, Hannah Lewandowski, Hannah Lindsay. Yeah, I'm just gonna go both
And then,
Hannahs.
cool.
Yeah, like the anger and rage coupled with muscle and just humor. I think that's the perfect setup. Yeah, double Hannahs
So,
on the mission.
good deal. All right. Because I'm trying to get back to our more traditional interview style episodes this year with athletes and put out more. One of the questions we used to always ask was if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the Highland Games, good or bad, or just to suit personal preference. Like, money's not an issue, exposure. You just poof. What are you changing about?
Um, I think the women's lightweight weight class is way too low.
Okay.
I think 150 is crazy. It's very light, and I think the masters weights are too light as well. Like, because once you hit 40, like you're not like automatically weaker. I think that like 45, 50 is acceptable, but like there are a lot of badass athletes right at 40 that are like, oh, now I get to throw the 21. And it's like, wait, and I know it's only 7 pounds, but that is such a huge difference. It is so huge that it doesn't jive for me. Like you have Kendra Danzer and Adrian Wilson out there just like dropping absolute bombs, and they should, but it's like they're still capable of throwing the 28. So like, why are we? I don't know. And then like the lightweight women's, like some of them have to just absolutely kill themselves to get under 150. And like you're telling me that, okay, somebody like Melissa Thorpe, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's like 5'9", 5'10". So naturally tall women are heavier because we're taller.
Yeah.
And she drops the weight to get under there, and it's like that is unhealthy. But she knows, because she has such a slight frame, that if she were to throw with the open, it'd be very difficult. So then she kills herself trying to stay under. And so I think it should change to like 160, 165 personally. I think that's a healthier number.
Yeah.
And that class would grow, and they could fill out class sizes, and the national championships could be like more badass and better competition and bigger numbers. And I think that even 10 pounds would make that side of the sport grow.
Yeah.
But
I've always wondered, I've never given thought to it. Interesting, but as the sport scaling of the women's division in particular, like even just addressing the actual weights that are thrown, I feel like it ends up really split, because when you start getting really world-class strength athletes into it, 28 pounds being the heavyweight and 14 being the lightweight just seems so light. Like, I know in the grand scheme of things, we're already technically on the lighter side of weighted implements. We just do different things with them. But I've always been curious of, if the women's side continues to grow exponentially, like, is that amount of weight going to continue to be the challenge that it should? You know?
yeah, and I mean, same thing for the men's side. Like there are men where, you go pick up a 56-pound kettlebell and you're like, whoa, that's got some heft to it. And then, you put that on a chain and you're expected to spin around and throw it. And transition to that is quite difficult, but there's some absolutely huge guys throwing these things. Like Kyle Lilly, and then like you have somebody like Nick Aston, who's physically completely different, but can still drop bombs. So it's like, I don't know, like maybe there should be weight classes within Highland Games, like, or points, a point differential or something like that, because it's more impressive for a lighter weight athlete to have this distance. And if you're over 200 pounds, if you're over 300 pounds, like, maybe a scaled percent. I don't know what the right thing is, but like the expectation that it's a level playing field, like,
yeah.
Because in every other sport there's weight classes, so I just find it interesting that there's only 2 in Highland Games.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. I never too much thought, because I'm so far away from the lightweight class. But yeah, no, that's something to think about. Interesting. Okay, cool. We've now yapped for almost an hour flat.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover while you were on this podcast?
I guess just kudos to you, growing the sport the way you are. This podcast, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, the guys at 9 Point Day, they're doing a great job. It's very fun and silly, and he's turning out content all the time. But you were one of the first, you guys were the first.
Into generations, because you had Mark Valeni ran a podcast. I started in the Highland Games, close to 7 years ago. But then you had a very defined gap where there wasn't anything, you know. So I take that off, and I'm interrupting you. I love Jacob's now doing one and Kyle's now doing one, and then we're all doing it differently. Like that really excites me. I love that Jacob takes the time to make all those little blurbs and summaries and post all of that stuff. That's cool. I'm not going to do that. I don't.
That's what I mean. That's the thing. Like that's what I want people to take away. If they take away anything, is that there is room for all of us. There's room for everybody to do things differently. And if you don't like it, that's fine. There's probably something for you, but there's nothing wrong with letting somebody else have their lane, and the right people will gravitate toward it. And you know, you're a younger athletic director, but like we need people like you in the sport to breathe life into events and these games, and a new way of thinking about sponsorship, a new way of doing things that is going to only benefit everybody. And, you know, if you want the opportunity, they're still there on the East Coast. There's still going to be great games popping up. And so, you know, we need people like you and Mac kind of holding it down, creating these events. And you know, and obviously Josh at No Fame and Danny Webster down south. So I think it's wonderful, and we need more of it. And we all need you guys to keep collaborating more and creating these opportunities, because, you know, if you want change, you've sometimes got to do it yourself. So I appreciate seeing it. And thank you for having me at your games and promoting us the way you have been. And I really find it refreshing.
I'm trying. I hope structured from the outside, because really it's just me continually trying new stuff and seeing what sticks. You know, like floated an idea to all of y'all that were willing to come, and you had all said that seems dumb. I don't think it's going to work. I just won't do it. You know, like, and it's confusing some people as to how people are getting to the game or not to the game and this, that, and the other. But I promise there's a structure to it. Like there are reasons that I'm doing the things that I'm doing. I'm waiting to see if they all work out or not, you know?
Yeah. And Kirsty Corder at Stars and Thistles has generously hooked me up, and I'm going to be get my hands on some of her tacky soon. And I'm excited about it. And I'm excited to, you know, like I said, I am getting older, and I don't see myself, you know, competing, you know, well into my master's career. Like I don't see that. But you know, if I got a few more years left to give it all I can, then that's what I'll do. And I'm excited for the opportunities and make new friends and see new places. So
nice. Hey, brought up a good thing that we've over. Like, well, I know that we just did the closing bit. We'll not act like I fucked that up. What are your goals for this season? We'll make this super quick, and we'll go out on this instead of me what a great AD I am in podcast host, which
to hit 16 feet on WOB, I have the height. Like I have plenty of height. I have a issue with finishing. Like I have the yips when it comes to that event. Like I'm either dialed in and I'm great, or I'm like dropping absolute bombs well above the height, and they're not going over. And I need to really work on my positioning or timing of that, and just really dial that in. And I want to perfect the glide. I kind of do a step back approach when it comes to stones, open stone, and it works well enough for me, you know, at local games and smaller games. But once I'm in an elite crowd, it's quite obvious that I'm the only one that's not spinning or gliding. So I really need to work on that. Those two things. And just, you know, just get more proficient, put more reps in, just because I do too many things maybe to really excel at one. I should maybe put more energy and effort into, you know, practicing and reps and stuff like that, especially with given the opportunities I have been given. I don't want to squander it and make people regret inviting me, or, how is she in this class of athletes? And I don't want that to ever be a thing. So I know I need to make more of an effort, and those are my goals.
Hell yeah. Well, I am very excited for September. Hopefully, I'll run into you sooner than that. I would imagine I'll do more games this year, but I'm pumped. I'm glad you're coming. I'm glad everybody else so far is coming. I'm hoping to add a few more. We're up to, I haven't 13 or 14 pros.
That's amazing. That's amazing for for the first time you're offering, a big class like that. I think that's amazing. And you've already grown it in a year's time, and they have your support, and that's a testament to your effort. And everybody that went to the last games you ran had a great time and no bad reviews. So it looks like a beautiful area, and it's at a brewery. So it's win-win. As far as I'm concerned. What more can you need?
It's all I got, so hopefully nothing. Well, there we go. We circled back around complimenting me. Can you send us off with a hell yeah, brother? I feel like
in Hulk's voice or my voice?
Oh God, I feel like that's the only reason to do it.
Hell yeah, brother. I don't know. That was so deep. I don't know. It's just more of like a hell yeah, brother. If you've thrown with me or competed with me, I say it nonstop. And it's just kind of like after every throw, if it's good, I'll give you a hell yeah, brother. So that's where that is. And I hope to see you all soon, and happy training. And thank you again for having me, and nice to catch up.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers.